Hi, this is my second completely unscripted live 2D video. It's just to explain quickly how the core base work. So I already made all the assets, but they're all white with text, so it works just fine. You just have to change the texture. And to do that, just go in Live 2D and edit the texture atlas, replace texture, and I already made one, so you can just swap it. Boop. And as you can see, you don't have to do anything, quote unquote, for it to work and look fine. But as you can see, when I change the texture, I made the iris smaller because I wanted to have some glow around the iris. If you look closer, you see the gradient, so it glows. It's in the texture, and to achieve that, I had to make it smaller so it fit inside the pre-made circle. So if you want to do something like that, you will have to change, for example, the iris size. I already went and changed it. Here you can see the iris size is much bigger, and so is the deformer. If you look, let me unlock it. Here you can see how it is, and here it's much bigger. So when it plays, the iris isn't as small as here. So if you want to change the texture, keep in mind you might have to edit the deformer so it looks better. Same for the movements. Since I made the iris much bigger, when you will look to the side, it will bleed outside of the rim. Let me show you. If I go to this one and go to eye size, let me just put everything back to default. If I go and change the iris size to be bigger, it looks great right here. And if you play it, it might look okay at first. But keep in mind, the value, usually it never goes to the extreme. So just in case, if you check here, see? Just because I made it bigger, now it bleeds outside of the rim. So if you change the size of anything, make sure to edit the parameters and test everything to make sure everything looks fine. But it's not that hard. I mean, the bulk of the parameter is already made by me for you. It's not the most expressive model. I mean, there is some expression like changing the eye color. Well, here since I changed something, I messed it up a little, but if you go here, you can see it works fine. Since I went behind and checked everything, as you can see, here is the iris, and when it's in truck, it's not as small as it was before on the other core, but it's not that hard to change things. So just swap the texture, then when you have all the texture change, then go and change the parameter and make sure all the texture works well with the morph and deformers and everything. You don't want your model to look janky. I mean, you can look at my model. To be honest, it doesn't have the same range of motion, where here you can see, let me check, for example, my old one didn't have that much range of motion. So when I made this one, I made sure to change things so it really moved much better. Same for the core rotation. You can see how it can really look up, down, but mine, not that much. But mine has still some quirks. For example, if I front my brow, see, my piston goes up. So this one has a small eyebrow motion, but it's not as noticeable. As you can see, it's just a really small up and down motion. It's not quite as dramatic as the piston on my model, but it's just a base. You are supposed to play with it. If you want to exaggerate things and just go in and modify the deformers and parameters, just play around. Another thing I recommend doing, for example, this one, the iris doesn't do much besides change color and size when in shock. But if you look at the pupil of mine, when I smile, see the inner part expands, but the iris doesn't expand that much. It's just the pupil inside the iris. Same when I'm in shock. You can see the iris inside of the pupil get much smaller. It's not just a quick resize. So, yeah, I recommend playing with things a little. For example, change the way things are cut out. For example, my model, if you look at the iris, I cut out and separated things so the inner eye would change with expressions. See? So I recommend doing that. I provide you the base for you to customize and just play around with it. It can go from a basic plain paper cutout like this to a nice shaded thing like this. Play around and see how you like it. Maybe give them a little hat like mine. It's cute. Or just draw stickers on them.